Good morning. This is Emily Holubowich, Executive Director of the Coalition for Health Funding. It was so great to see Dan Diamond's Politico piece this morning, and I was so pleased to be featured in that piece about the unknown costs associated with the administration's separation of families at the border. In particular, this is a question I've been asking really since the news of this policy broke, and that is how exactly is the administration planning to pay for this? You'll recall the omnibus spending bill passed in March did not include new funding to support this policy. So it begs the question, exactly what is the plan? Dan highlights some of the costs of, or known costs of the plan in his piece this morning. And we know that already the administration has begun to shift funds around from other health programs to pay for this. Congress has been asking questions about what is needed and for what, and this remains a mystery. For the Coalition for Health Funding, this is particularly concerning as we care about all health programs that support public health and medical research. And so we are very concerned in the coalition that we are going to end up robbing Peter to pay Paul to support this outrageous man-made public health crisis. This will really harm existing programs that in reality are going to be needed to really pick up the pieces from this mess and support these children and their families. As we know from evidence that adverse childhood events like family separation cause trauma and long-term mental health and physical health effects. Presumably the department will in the future be having to support these families going forward. As we know from our own work in the Coalition for Health Funding, other than the National Institutes of Health and really opioid funding, really across the board, most programs are below 2010 levels adjusted for inflation after almost a decade of austerity and budget cuts, stagnant funding. And so robbing Peter to pay Paul within the administration is really not an option. The Coalition for Health Funding is extremely concerned that the administration will simply reallocate or reprogram funding from other important public health programs that are already underfunded to support this outrageous policy. It's for that reason the Coalition for Health Funding really believes it's going to be up to Congress, even though they didn't make this mess, to clean it up and to pass emergency supplemental spending to provide HHS the resources they need to support these families without taking necessary funding away from other programs. Congress has passed emergency supplementals to support responses to public health crises like Zika, like Ebola virus, hurricanes. This public health crisis on the border is no different. We know, again, from the evidence, it is a public health crisis, and that really the only difference is the fact that this is a man-made crisis. That should not change the fact that it is, in fact, an emergency and should qualify for emergency supplemental legislation. So Coalition for Health Funding will continue to watch this closely. We have just as many questions, I think, as the appropriators do, and other lawmakers do, and so we will keep you posted as we learn more.